Et tu, Brute, even you, Brutus, my son. Those words are supposed to have been uttered by one of the greatest generals of all times, Julius Caesar, as reproduced in a play by Shakespeare by the name Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was assassinated by senators, ostensibly for being too ambitious. Remember the phrase, crossing the Rubicon. They feared he would have crowned himself king, and Rome had come from that period of kingship. Et tu, Bruta. Even you, Brutus, my son. This is what Nairobi and Kenya is saying today of Raila Amolo Odinga. Good evening, fellow Kenyans, on this rainy Nairobi evening. Many Kenyans have besieged me to come out and speak about what Raila has done today. Remember, politics is about perception and never really reality. Et tu, Brute, even you, Brutus. In the play, as Julius Caesar falls down to die, he's supposed to have uttered those words. Why did Caesar say those words? Because the man who stabbed him, Brutus, was a man he loved most. So even you, Brutus, my son. And in fact, when Mark Anton comes to fire the crowd against these assassins, he does so most dramatically, most emotionally, by pointing at the wound inflicted on Caesar by Brutus. In the words of Mark Anton, for those who have read the play, Julius Caesar, he shows the people the cut where the dagger went through and says, this was the most unkindest cut of them all. The play and the historical facts to bear the play is that Caesar is seen to be too ambitious, but must be assassinated. And among the assassins is a man Caesar loved most. Kenyans are asking this. Raila, we love you so much. Why have you joined our oppressor? I'm just reporting what I've seen. I've had a problem moving the streets of Nairobi. And let's leave the facts out. And let's not play with the reality. Let's just talk about the mood in the country and the politics in the country. The people see Raila coming to save Ruto when they want Ruto to change and do what is good for the country. The people view Raila as the one man without whose hand Ruto will not resist to make the changes the country requires and desires. But one man also sympathizes with Raila and says, how do you help a brother who is fallen down except you be standing and strong? To mean, therefore, to Raila Odinga, people see you as a traitor. And yet they love you. And they are saying this. If you must help a man because he's down, you can't help him when you too are down. Both of you are already down. How do you help him? And therefore you ought to remain strong, standing and strong to be able to extend your hand to a fallen brother. So not all people who are reacting to this Raila dalliance with Ruto today are really bashing him. They are asking themselves, how can Raila see these simple things? How can't he understand? How does he fail to understand? This is how these things will be perceived. That you have come from somewhere, consciously, maybe from your home, maybe from your office, deliberately, to come and help a person many Kenyans believe has the power to change things in the country, and yet is adamant he doesn't want to change things. This is important because I've said before, and I want to tell Raila Odinga, history is very unforgiving. You can do many things, and indeed what Raila has done, not many people have done in this country. I therefore address myself to Raila Odinga and tell him, be mindful of the feelings of those people who love you, of the people whose only hope that this country will one day change has been in you. And therefore of the betrayal, of crushing of human feelings and emotions when you are seen to be doing that which presents you as one, being insensitive, two, not caring about those people, and three, standing in the way of progress. Remember what I said, is not the reality that counts. It is the perception. I agree with the man who says Raila cannot help a brother who is fallen down when he himself does things that sends him on the floor, and that both of them are on the floor. When you want to help a friend and a brother, first, you remain strong, like I've said, Raila Odinga. Secondly, you be honest and truthful to a friend and a brother. That is not possible without you looking at the situation properly, the context, the environment, and giving sound advice to a brother, to a friend. In this particular case, to President William Samoei Ruto. If you took time to understand the situation in the country, Raila Odinga, you'll know the country is at a place, at a juncture, when we ought to appreciate the magnitude of the problem, of the change brought about by these Gen Z children of ours and grandchildren of ours. We have a small problem in this country. And let's get it right. Anybody who's trying to think they can penetrate the Gen Z using the ideas of leadership and what have you, they will fail. Because this is about a revolution. Revolutions are about an idea or ideas. You don't deny the existence of an idea. You do not fight change. You manage change. And President Daniel Arap Moi was very good at that. That's why he knocked 24 good years in power. Even during those hostile times, which he described as wakati wa upepo mkali, the period heading to 1990, when the world was changing, especially after the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War. And even much earlier than that. Reading the moods, understanding the times. Times are changing. The beauty to Raila Odinga, and by extension to President William Ruto, from a man who cares about this country. The beauty of this problem is that unlike other movements, this is not about taking somebody to State House. If you think there's anybody who wants to take President William Ruto's job, then you have lost it and missed it. I invite my fellow countrymen to know that is the really true picture. That these young men and women, watching their parents suffer, they themselves suffering. The Gen Zs joining their millennial brothers and sisters in joblessness, hopelessness, are saying, no, we can't take this anymore. This country has the capacity to make life better for all of us. We only need to do the right things. Let the systems work. They are not interested in anybody's position. They just want things to work. It can't be simpler than that for Ruto and Raila. No, it can't be simpler than that. If these boys and girls were looking for power, it will be another story. They are not looking for power. They just want the leadership of this country to do the right thing. That's all. Furthermore, this is a simple problem that will not be solved by people trying to be clever, trying to get all the tricks. This is a problem, simple, but it will not be solved by games. It will not be solved by saying now we can silence these people by merely calling for dialogue. They'll scoff at that. They will not believe in it. In fact, you'll fuel the problem. Raila Odinga, tell your brother, William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of Kenya, tell him this. The problem in the country is simply a problem of cabinet. Don't look for other things. Cabinet summarizes the problem of this country. Because people are saying, this is a country of plenty. We are way ahead of many countries. We sadly watch today a small, inconsequential countries like Rwanda, Tanzania, Somalia tomorrow, Ethiopia, are beginning to overtake us. Yet we are the country that should be in the League of Nations. That's what these young men are saying. We have the potential. But the problem is crystallized. If you want the problem of this country, people are finding it in cabinet, because it is cabinet that will address the problem of this country. Not those dialogue sessions. No. Tell a brother the truth. Help a brother. Help your country. For Raila Odinga, I will be very honest with you. And you know me. You know me. I will tell you the truth. People are very annoyed with you. They believe you're betraying them. And yet you may not be betraying them. You understand the game. What you are failing to do is to manage public perception. I would understand what you are doing. I know the game. I know the problems William Ruto will be facing. I know the challenges. But I'm not Kenyans. I'm not everybody. I go beyond perception. I go behind perception. I go under. I unearth the real thing. I know the challenges the president is facing. I've talked about these challenges. It's not as easy as we may be telling, do this, do this. It's not easy. It's difficult. But you don't make a bad situation worse by engaging in those games. They will just not wash for Kenyans. Raila Odinga, I must end by reminding you that you've done so much for this country. But history is unforgiving. All that good will be wasted. It will be forgotten. Because quite often, sometimes, like Shakespeare says, the evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. You have to go beyond what Shakespeare is saying to ensure that the good you have done for this country, Raila Odinga, does not go with you when your day comes to go to your maker. When you descend down there, like all of us will at some point, it will be bad that all the good you did for this country, everything you stood for, will go 6 feet under just like an ordinary mortal like me. You have to live beyond your grave, Raila Odinga. Your grandchildren and the grandchildren of even your grandchildren should read about their great-great-grandfather. Raila Odinga, you should be a Rwanda Magere. You should be a legend. Books in their thousands should be written about you. No single individual in this country has done half of what you have done for this country. You cannot lose it just like that. Unfortunately, Raila Odinga, you are just losing it now. The sort of things people are saying about you, Raila Odinga, today, you can only get them from a friend like me to tell you the truth. And I must say it publicly. You need to do yourself good. Do this country good. Do the generations to come good. Feel the Gen Z who are your children and grandchildren. And help a brother. Help the president. I know at this time, the challenges the president is going through, you need a really strong brother to stand with you. At moments you fall down. At times like this, even the greatest of individuals do fall down. Great men in history have fallen down and knelt and cried. Jesus himself cried. And said the cup was too much. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So signal the fact that we are all human beings. At some times, the burden that we are carrying becomes too much for our shoulders, however broad, however tough, however intelligent. There are times we are put to test and the weight becomes too much and we fall down. We need to rise. Times like those, you need a strong brother to stand by you, to give you his hand, and you stand up. You dust yourself and soldier on. You do not help a brother by becoming weak yourself, Raila Odinga. You help a brother, I've said this, by remaining strong and standing and having the clarity of issues and of mind to be able to sit with our brother and tell him, at the end of the day, President William Samoei Ruto, this is our country. It's a country we want to bequeath to future generations, to our children and their children, and the grandchildren of the children of our children. Countries go down for big things. Our country cannot go down over such a small thing. Yes, we can have dialogue, Raila Odinga. I say we must have a national conversation. But 3 things must happen first. 2, then that's the third one. First, we must appreciate the magnitude of the problem we are in, the challenge we are facing. You cannot wish it away. And if you understand the challenges we are in, the magnitude of the problem, you cannot afford to be clever. You cannot afford to come up with games. Whether they are games or they are perceived as such as the things you are suggesting about dialogue. Secondly, we should be your advice to your brother as you lift him up, that at times like this, action is required to assuage the people. Some action, some drastic action to shake things up. If the president had been advised to reject that bill before it went to State House for signature, or Harambee House, I'm telling you, there will be nothing going on. We will only remain with the ideas of the revolution without the disturbances. If you want to believe me, look at how much temperatures went down, even as people are saying we are not satisfied. It's too little, too late. Yet it had an impact. You can imagine today, if the president was advised by strong people like you, Raila Odinga, to dissolve cabinet, I want to end up by saying this. That one act alone will convince the people of this country that the president has understood the gravity of the issue. He feels the people and he's determined to do something about it. That creates hope. And only then, when you have restored confidence, because the issue of people believing the president has been overstated by people. It has been said in all forums. The issue of people thinking is not saying the truth and believing so has been over-amplified. We don't need to go there again. But that one action will restore confidence. And once the people begin to trust you, then you can sit down. You can sit down and tell the young men and women, we understand you. We are now seated down as your elders, as your fathers, as your mothers, to correct the mess we have put the people of this country through. And you do it peacefully. And we will have a conversation about making this country better. Raila Odinga, the people of this country are justified to be annoyed. And they deserve better from you. As a true friend, I will advise you to come out openly and explain this thing to the people of this country, Raila Odinga, especially to the Gen Z, so that you are not seen as a traitor. Ask people close to you to go through social media in the few hours since you did this, and they will tell you if they really love you what the social media is saying and what the country is saying is within your powers to assist your brother. And for now, more than that, you have some small window, Raila Odinga, to salvage your name and to ensure your legacy remains and your name is not a footnote in the books of history.